It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the companion show to Cordkillers. On Cordkillers, we figure out how to watch things. What are the services? What are the devices? Then we watch them and we talk about them here. This week, we will be spoiling Westworld Season 4, Episode 8, but Brian just finished watching the entire Season 4 of Westworld, so we'll be talking about that too. Plus, Better Call Saul, the penultimate episode, Season 6, Episode 12, and What We Do in the Shadows, Season 4, Episode 6. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Hey, Tom, you were
Brian.
off fighting who knows what with one of the Doctor Who's last week.
Yes, Cybernolics.
So you were not there as
I was with the Doctor. Yeah.
Who?
What I'm trying to say is I want to start by talking about What We Do in the Shadows.
Let's start with What We Do in the Shadows, Season 4, Episode 6, The Wedding. Guillermo loses his mind trying to help Nandor plan the perfect vampire wedding. I think the highlight of this episode for me, Brian, is that we got the old vampire restored and we got to see Dougie Jones.
I'm a bit surprised because last week, Bryce was not on the same wavelength as I was in terms of, I thought last week when they were trying to get little Colin Robinson into a private school was a full return to form, a full ensemble cast, a hilarious one. Bryce seemed to think this one was better than that one. Oh, yeah. Now that we can finally talk about both, who's your favorite? Me or Bryce?
I love you both in different ways.
Cop out. Tom cop. That classic Tom cop out.
I think I liked this episode a little better than the private school one. But the private school one had its moments, though. Like it might have had the better moments. But because they took so many shots, they did that couch scene like forever. This was the better overall story though, where you were like leading up to the wedding. And again, I just have to say, seeing Baron Ophanos turned into like, a human was unexpectedly enjoyable for me.
Well, and also like as an afterthought, like, yeah, I don't know, whatever, also make him young and beautiful again.
Yeah, right.
And
as if like, oh, you could have saved his like suffering a long time ago, but you did it as an afterthought because it was helpful for your wedding.
He seemed into it though by the end.
I was about to say it's a tribute to the Baron that no harm, no foul. The guy was cool when he was vomiting garlic. He was cool when he got burned away and buried. He was cool when he came back to life. He's like, whatever, man. I'm just the chillest of all vampires.
He's the oldest of all vampires, right? Or at least one of the oldest. So that makes sense. Also, shout out to Doug Jones, who just can do everything. Like this guy's been in so many different things, including Star Trek Discovery, where he plays an entirely different character. Most of the time, he's dressed up in makeup. You may not realize that he was the amphibian in The Shape of Water, for instance.
Oh.
And he's like just
oh my God,
hilarious as the Baron.
That ass. What's funny is when you said Doug Jones, I thought you meant like the neighbor who is increasingly interesting to me.
Oh yeah. I only just discovered vampires and I want to let you know I'm okay with it.
So many good moments in this episode. I love that the Jinn is like, oh, that was the last one, but then sticks around
and gives him 3 more.
Yeah, it's like
he's like, I got you a little something. It's 3 more wishes. He rolls his eyes. I
haven't expected to throw it out,
I guess.
Yeah, when you think of it from the Jinn's perspective, he's like, oh, this is the easiest gift for me to give, right? Like I didn't even have to try.
Yeah. Trumple in our chat is reminding us about Marwa starting to get a little bit of FaceTime with Guillermo at the end of the episode. Which was interesting. They're definitely hinting around there's some sort of connection between Guillermo and Nandor, and I think that they're toying around with it in some interesting ways, I guess.
The Jinn is one of the slickest, lowest keys introductions of one of my favoriteest characters, maybe in all of comedy, because I still don't know what to call him, but all I know is he's great. and I was like, at what point did I figure out that this dude is awesome? And I still have no idea.
In. Yeah, no, you're right. I agree with that. I also love that he brought back Marwa's parents to life.
It was like, so for the full weekend, he's like, maybe an early Sunday lunch.
I really loved that the first half of the episode is Nandor freaking out, having this big bridezilla idea of like, everyone's out to destroy me, everyone's out to destroy this wedding. And then they actually do the wedding, and everyone has accidentally decided that they needed to speak against the wedding. And for an hour,
it becomes this random airing of grievances.
What love is eternal anyway, really? But then.
Well, even Laszlo is like, except for my marriage, which is perfect. Marriage is awful. No one should do it.
And even though we're having a wedding, which is traditionally in human culture seen as one of the most grandest cementing of your relationship,
holiest,
still doesn't turn her into a vampire at the end of it. He loves her. He marries her. She's not going to be a vampire.
Kind of on the fence about consummating the whole thing.
And it seems like she's got someone else she's interested in too. A little Hispanic boy.
Also, we got to revisit one of the anti-vampire league, the mosquitoes that is working at a 7-Eleven or whatever.
That's who that was. That was a great.
Yes.
And then him getting up with the guide at the end and dancing. That was.
It was kind of sweet, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of. It did seem a little sad,
sad but sweet.
Sad and sweet, because he really wanted to be friends with Guillermo. I think he's accepting Kristen Shaw. There's a lot of good characters. Hey, adding characters to the show is what it needed.
Good characters, good stuff. All right, that is What We Do in the Shadows, season 4, episode 6. Let's move on to the second to last episode ever of Better Call Saul, season 6, episode 12, Waterworks, which continues Brian's streak of having predicted we would stay in black and white land. But we're with Kim Wexler, who goes by Kim Wexler, but works in a sprinkler sales company in Florida now, and has an excessively boring life that she seems to be perfectly content with.
Yeah, and we were led last episode to believe that whatever she said on the phone was super awful and terrible and insightful.
Yeah.
Turns out what she said was, yeah, you're a bad person. You should probably turn yourself in.
Why are you calling me? Yeah.
Which is very much a Breaking Bad. That's like the exact same phone call that Walter White has with his son at the end of Breaking Bad. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah,
he calls him while he's at the school, and he's like, "You should die. You should turn yourself in. You should die." And Kim has kind of the opposite reaction.
She's more mature, really.
And then Saul doesn't. Saul is the child in the dynamic. He breaks the phone box, and she's just listening and doesn't know what to say, or maybe she's still not ready to speak to him. I did call it that she would get furious that he called her and tried to bring her into all of this stuff.
And motivates her to do the right thing, to like basically re-examine her own part in it and say, you know what, I still have one thing to atone for. And if it means I end up going to jail and I get investigated, I guess at this point, that's fine, because I feel so guilty about what we did. Flies all the way to Albuquerque. What a great depiction of the mundanity of air travel. That scenes of her on the shuttle bus and then landing and renting a car and driving out and confessing to everything they did to Howard.
Well, there's also this vibe of, Saul clearly is joking when he says, oh, if it's so easy to lead a moral life, why don't you just confess to everything we did? Now, it's doubly interesting because he's saying it to the woman who created the man he is today.
Mm-hmm.
And she shrugs and is like, yeah, whatevs. Cool. Let me type it out. And then, like, it's unreal.
But he gives her the same shrift in the color sequence when they get divorced, right? He couldn't get, hey, where are you going? I don't care. Have a
nice life.
Let's make some money around here. So there's no blood between them. There's no love lost between them because they are strangers. They're people who don't know each other.
That is an outcome I don't think, even given 200 guesses, I ever would have come up with.
Yeah.
Like
seems
absolute indifference.
And it seems to make sense. Like, oh, I guess I should have seen this coming, because Kim was someone with the capability to be a scammer, but not the desire.
I think the desire was there.
Hold on. Let me finish the thought.
Tom's gonna break his telephone box, Brian.
No. I don't have a telephone box. Jimmy, I have a TARDIS.
It's bigger on the inside.
Desire may be the wrong word, but Kim wanted to be good, but was attracted to being bad.
Yes.
Jimmy wanted to be bad, but was attracted to being good. And that's why they worked. They helped balance each other and limit each other. And it makes sense that Jimmy pushed that balance too far, as well as circumstances. And Kim feels horrible for letting that side of her win, and Jimmy does not. He only wanted to stay with her. He doesn't really feel as bad because he's never felt as guilty about those things. He's only wanted to be good, whereas Kim naturally is good.
Would it be too far of a stretch to suggest that Kim and Jimmy liked each other, but specifically it's in Jimmy to be a scoundrel and a cheat, or to be drawn that way? And most of our favorite Kim and Jimmy bits are, she's essentially playing D&D. She's essentially saying like, oh, well, in that case, you'd probably want to do this and do that. And do that.
I mean, we're not really going to do it, right?
But it's not,
I mean,
it's not that visceral and real to her.
Yeah, until she gets so angry with Howard that she's willing to let it be real because he deserves it. But because of Lalo, it goes way farther than she imagined. She imagined Howard being embarrassed, and she feels bad that she even gave into that. But I think she rationalized it at the time of like, well, he'll be fine. You know, he really won't be hurt, and he deserves it. Whereas the fact that it went farther than that, Jimmy just chalks it up to like, that's life. You know, sometimes Lalo shoots a guy in the head in front of you. It's traumatic, but you know, it's just part of the game. Whereas Kim was like, no, I wasn't playing a game.
Eventually you forget about it.
Yeah, right.
Bryce has a screenshot pulled up that is of a significant moment where, you know, Kim is like, yeah, sure, I'll own everything, whatever. We type it all out. This is all the things we did. And what we're seeing is that moment when Howard's widow is like, this was not a lark. This is all anybody knows about my beloved Howard.
Yeah.
This is, you did worse than murder him yourself. You murdered his legacy. You murdered everything he ever was. And it was powerful, powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It was. Actually, in our chat, someone just had it. But Kim telling Cheryl that is not dissimilar to Howard talking to Jimmy about Chuck's death and how Howard felt responsible for Chuck's death. And we saw how Jimmy took it, right? Jimmy had this like delusion and really bought into to the idea, well, if Howard's going to take the blame, then I'm going to let him, or at least it seemed to be. And we don't really see, the scene gets cut short a little bit when Cheryl's asking, well, why would you do this? And I guess we don't know why, but this is both of the Hamlins being in that type of transaction, this post-mortem, literally, that maybe is a little inappropriate or tough to I don't know, do.
So here we are, one episode left.
Well, hold on. Can I throw one last thing from this past episode?
Yeah.
Because it was an unnecessary scene, and I've read that they knew it was an unnecessary scene, but they just wanted to do it anyway, which is Kim meeting Jesse Pinkman.
Definitely felt unnecessary.
It did.
And they've said in the interview, like, we didn't need that scene, but we just couldn't pass up the temptation to have them meet.
Yeah.
And I agree with both of you. I agree with them that was really fun to see. Like, oh, look, it's Kim and Jesse. The streams are finally really crossing. Because yes, it was fun to see Saul and Jesse and Walter in the trailer again. But that was Breaking Bad. That was just more Breaking Bad in Better Call Saul. This was the true crossing over of a character that was never in Breaking Bad with a character who really isn't part of Better Call Saul. That I appreciated that, and I liked that. At the same time, I get you both where you're like, the scene didn't add anything.
It didn't need to be Jesse Pinkman.
Yeah.
Or I guess to do, if what we're doing is telling the story of Kim in that scene, then we don't need to figure out why Jesse suddenly thinks Saul is good enough or is questionable. Like, it could have been any person, and I guess it's better that it's not random than just being random. I don't know. I feel like I'd rather have something be arbitrary or random until it doesn't need to be. But this felt a little too fated, a little too coincidental.
Yeah. I still kind of enjoyed it.
That's where I'm at. It's like this is forced. It doesn't belong here. It adds nothing. I'm glad I saw it. That's not
okay. But you were gonna say, Brian.
I was gonna speculate about what we're about to see in a couple of hours.
Good ending or bad ending for the Jimmy and Kim relationship? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I kind of just sad thinking about any possibility. It looks like the door is closed with Kim.
Yeah.
He's got no friends left. He's clearly...
I feel like we've seen the last of Kim. That almost felt like the end of her story. Like, she has confessed, and obviously we all wonder, like, ooh, do they investigate her? Do they put her on trial? So maybe we see references to that. Maybe this last episode is it all unravels for Saul, and they discover who he is and where he is despite his best efforts because he reached out to Kim. Because he broke into that guy's house and left evidence, broke the glass. Like, the little mistakes he's been making in these last few episodes catch up with him. I could see it going that way, but I don't feel confident in saying that's the way it's gonna go.
We do know that Jimmy follows Kim's lead, and she very clearly was a North Star of morality in the previous episode. I would not be surprised if the last episode is straight up Jimmy McGill just giving himself over to, hi, I'm a terrible person who has done terrible things. I'm here at your service. What can I do?
To
the
Hamlin
to the cops,
widow?
to the FBI, to you name it.
Is it the end of both stories? Is it Jimmy turns himself in, and it's the trial that explains Walter and the Salamancas, and like, if all of that finally comes out and justice is served?
That could happen. Equally likely in my mind is a small moment where he does the right thing. Somebody pulls out a gun at a 7-Eleven and he jumps in front of it and takes a bullet to the chest.
Yeah.
And he dies knowing that he did at least one dang good thing.
Yeah, that strikes the most true to me, what you just said there, something like that.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the Howard stuff was this season. That was in the first half of the season before the break, but I was still in season 6. So I think if there's ever going to be a time to resolve anything, but
and maybe he writes that out the way Kim did and leaves it behind.
Oh, maybe. I would like a happy ending for the two of them. I would like for them to.
No, we're not getting a happy ending for sure.
I don't.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But I would say I would like one. Right? We've become very endeared to these two characters, unlike Breaking Bad, where almost everyone has a reason to not like them for one reason or another. So I don't know. I don't know if this universe always needs to have bad or sad or lonely endings.
No, but that's what I love about the ending Brian just described. Is it's sad, it's justice, but it's also good, right?
Okay. From the chat, a very good idea. 40 years later, a very old man comes out of jail. It's Jimmy McGill. A very old woman meets him, having seen him pay his debts. They sit down, they watch TV. I don't know.
I mean,
he's walking towards her. It's icy. He
and
falls
then he
and breaks his hip.
Sues the prison, makes the money.
And she says, "Oh, slippin' Jimmy."
Oh, because we found out last episode that Saul doesn't have any leverage. Everyone is dead or is out of the country.
All he's got's money.
He barely has even money. So it's not like the prosecutors, he's got anything to trade. And especially with the Hamlin stuff, Kim lays it out very plainly. There's no evidence. Anyone who would petition this, it does not exist. So, congrats. Here's the truth. And some vague promise that she'll make things right. But I feel like they can do that, but they don't need the time jump because
we also have Marion dangling out there on a thread. Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
I feel like she already served her purpose of being the hair trigger alarm.
But she also now knows who he is or what he is. Maybe not who, but what, you know?
And it probably
she does. She knows who, actually. She looked him up. She knows exactly who he is.
Yeah. What did you guys think about that moment? Because that was the only time that we've seen them mix formats between the black and white, and they added color inserts on his reflection of of one of his ads.
That was cool. I was mainly annoyed that, like, I was thinking dial-up modems can't summon that good of a video.
Maybe she had DSL. I don't know. She plugged into a laptop.
She kept saying she had to dial up.
Oh, yeah.
She unplugged it from the phone and plugged it into the computer, and then suddenly we're seeing a YouTube video, and I'm just like, fake.
Oh my gosh.
Real video. Any other thoughts on the entirety of Better Call Saul?
Well, I guess we'll have him next week.
It's a good show.
Very good show.
That is Better Call Saul, Season 6, Episode 12. Let's now talk about Westworld, Season 4, Episode 8, which Brian just watched, along with the other 7 episodes in the season.
Guys, there's only one way to watch Westworld, and it's already knowing everything that is coming. And
it made it better for us to have talked about it, it sounds like.
A billion times better. So much better. Like I understood the pastiche that we were going for. I understood the themes that we were going to explore. I understood that Westworld is an anthology series. And as long as you understand, it's a shared universe, but every season is its own story. Like, that was a gift I had never had before. I loved it. It was so much fun.
Yeah. As someone who watched it week over week, I felt that same way after the first episode because it's pretty clear that seems like that's the paradigm that they're going to do. I found that watching the episodes twice got me about to 90% of what you're feeling, where I felt like, oh, I know what's going to happen. This thing's going to happen. And you kind of wipe away some of the mystique of what's going on. Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. I see this the second time and I'm going to do it. And so
this is interesting
because I think binging is great, especially if you're binging and you're really paying attention. And also I think if you just let yourself at 2 different sessions watch the same episode, I think you also get a lot of the, not even necessarily subtext, but just some of the stuff that you missed, details and little things on the second time. What do you feel, Tom?
Well, my thing is we all bring different things to viewing, and which is why we have different opinions about the same thing. And while there's a bell curve of good and bad, like some things are way more likely to be thought bad by more people and vice versa, on the other end of the bell curve, that generally most stuff falls somewhere in between. I think what I'm feeling from both of you is that Westworld, if you're coming into it with the expectation of being surprised, which is how they market it, it's probably going to disappoint you because you're going to see a lot of what's going to come, and a lot of the twists aren't really that shocking, but that the real value in it is in the texture of the story. And that if you take away that element of like, well, I'm not going to be surprised because I know what's going to happen, you start to be able to look around and appreciate where you are more, and appreciate the detail and the cinematography and the nuance that they put into it. Does that sound fair?
Yeah. Here's something that was unfair is once you don't have the distraction of of trying to figure out whether or not Jesse Pinkman is real or not real or whatever, it unfortunately for me allows me to fully dial in on this moment that a father is given the gift of meeting his adult child right before he says goodbye forever. Unrelatedly, my daughter goes to college in 36 hours. It's fine.
So, I mean, we all bring different experiences into what we're watching. Some more proximate than others. I did challenge Brian to recite Caleb's entire speech to his daughter when he drops her off at college, including the part about being a robot.
Yeah, I may just read some Shel Silverstein instead.
Probably a better idea.
Although we've got a screen grab up right now that is this meant to imply that
Brian was right and there's a spaceship?
No, that none of this really happened and that we're only seeing everything through the eyes of hosts.
No,
I don't know.
I think not.
Okay.
So, because I recently went back and watched some older episodes of Westworld after Andrew Main, who was on the show, talked to us about it, and so I feel like I'm heavy on the lore, right? So this is the door, right? This was the door from season 2,
right?
When the hosts walk through it, they get absorbed, loaded into the sublime, and their physical body gets deactivated because it's just a big head thing. And so, and only the hosts can see it. And we know that the man in black here and in most of the episode is a host. So
it's augmented reality. Essentially.
Yeah, it's something
like
that they can see.
The door part of it is real, but the visual is just an augmented reality. Like the sublime is on the other side. That's how I took it, is that it's not really there in the sense of like, there's not actually a rip in space or anything.
Right.
It's just an indication of what the sublime is on the other side and where you need to go if you want to walk.
And only hosts are able to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because this was a thing in season 2 when they see the door and the 2 technician humans are there and they're seeing all the robots parade to nothingness.
Yeah.
How do we feel about the way that it ended with the end of all sentient life on Earth?
I know. Seems to me like if all life on Earth is over, there's only one place to go and only one vehicle that'll take you there.
Inside the surface of the earth, a subterranean. That's right. Deep Impact
The
season.
Mole Men.
Spaceships.
Chud World.
Spaceships.
I really love this ending because we don't know if they're getting a season 5 for sure. I guess Ed Harris has said they are, and they're going to start shooting it in April or something. But he's the only one who's commented publicly to that effect. If they didn't do a season 5, I kind of like the poetic ending of, and Doris, went off to test the hosts one more time and return to the beginning. And it's like this Ouroboros, like maybe what we saw in season 1 is being replayed, or maybe this is maybe it just goes around and around and it's all a simulation. I like the idea of leaving it open like that, but it also would be fun to see what Doris's test looks like and how it differs from season 1, and who's in there. Is the real Teddy in there? Supposedly. What about copies? Are there copies of Hale and Maeve and even the Man in Black? Like, you could conceivably bring everybody back.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good question, because they go out of their way to be like, originally it used to be all of the data from copying humans from the park that was in the Sublime servers, and then it became the hosts. Yeah. And then they got rid of the human data, but then it also seemed like they turned the Sublime off. Because Doris is in it. But someone's got to keep those servers running and pumping and working.
Yeah, they're pretty repairing. But.
Yeah, and also if you're going to pick a forever energy source, you could do worse than the Hoover Dam.
Yeah. I also. Yes, all sentient life is ended except for the outliers, right? And Clementine is headed to the outliers. So you have a possible B plot for a season 5 of Clementine trying to wipe out the last vestiges of humanity. Does she succeed? Does she not? And is that who the hosts return to when they pass Doris's test and come back to Earth?
Spaceship.
Yeah, I would love it to be Spaceship. I would love it if she was in Westworld and she pulled up a little panel.
Oh, right. Clementine got shot in the head. Sorry, I forgot she's
Spaceship.
Out of it. But the outliers are still there.
And I don't think that there's anything, I guess I don't know what would be stopping them from building new host bodies unless you need a human to press a button. Like, I guess that's the big question for this idea of extinction or survival.
Charlotte wanted them all to ascend to the Sublime, and they didn't want to. Doris is testing whether they deserve to have bodies or not.
Is that what she's testing? She's testing something, but...
Yeah, I feel like it was, should we... the chance that Bernard talked about was to repopulate the Earth.
For the listeners, am I the only one who's noticed that everybody keeps calling her Doris and not Dolores?
Oops. Oh, I guess that,
okay.
Sorry. You're right. But
I'm sorry, Christina.
Christina, yes, thank you, really, Christina.
Spaceships.
Isn't it, Tom and Brian, isn't it a bummer that Christina kind of didn't do anything this season? That she kind of didn't need to be here, and that she accomplished basically nothing?
She did everything.
Right.
Christina wrote all the stories.
She was turning the hamster wheel very, very strong, and I don't know how interesting that was.
Christina was the engine for the entire world.
And I think that we definitely needed to say that and establish that. And I feel like we gave her...
Can you imagine if we didn't see Christina all season, and then suddenly they're like, oh, here's the pearl that's made of Dolores that we've been... Like, no, you had to have her there.
I think that we should have her, and I think that we do, but I think we have a lot of her when her story is, who am I? Oh, I've got magical powers. All of my magical powers are broken, and I remembered who I am. What were we doing that for then?
What are we doing? What do you mean, what are we doing
What were we doing so much of that for?
Imagine I were to pitch to you, hey, HBO, that character who's now gone, what if she was back and there was a meta-narrative that was 8 episodes long, and what if the topic was somebody's a god, but it takes them 8 episodes to figure that out.
And also,
not only to figure it out,
becoming
but
the god.
Hale specifically prevented her from figuring it out, firewalled her off from herself. But Dolores's program was clever enough to kind of have subroutines that planted clues, that created stories that put a Teddy in front of her, that put a guy who said, "You're the story master." Like, I disagree with you, Bryce. I thought the Christina story didn't make sense until I figured out who she was. And then I was like, "Oh, right. She's locked out of herself." And the entire season was Dolores struggling to figure that out and unlock it so that she could then be the person that Bernard relies on to save everything.
I guess so. It's just like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's a part of the story and you need to establish that.
It's the whole story, really.
It feels toothless, right?
How's it? Oh yeah, I don't get that at all. Sorry.
To me, and this is having just rewatched season 1 or half of season 1, and the whole theme of season 1 is about the maze, and the maze is consciousness. And when you get to the center, you realize that all of your inner voices are just you. They're not Hale, they're not Arnold, they're not Bernard, they're you. And so if Dolores' storyline, if her on-screen time is who am I again? I'm really bummed because I know who you are, and if you're just telling me, yeah, all of my mysteries were me, then I'm going, yeah, you told me that three seasons ago.
Yeah,
But
I
they make a point of being like, that Teddy didn't do that. You did that.
I didn't think the revelation was that.
Okay.
That's beside the point. That's a mechanic at this point, not the point.
maybe try this framework on for size. We saw before her figuring out who she is. What if, as for one season, we knew who she was, but she didn't?
Yeah.
And that's the game we got to play.
And she doesn't not know who she is because she hasn't realized it. She doesn't know who she is because she's been locked out by Hale.
I guess that doesn't. I understand that they're different, but to me, the end result is the same.
By the way, none of this makes this good. I'm just
Like,
but the closer I think of it as a anthology series of sci-fi stories,
okay,
each one self-contained in a shared universe, the happier I
Definitely
get.
not worried about what happened in previous seasons at all. I'm not bringing that in at all. I'm not trying to connect it. I'm looking at it as Dolores was an incredibly powerful, the most powerful personality, and Hale harnessed that and yet couldn't contain it because it was that powerful that even with firewalls, even with security locks, it was able to program out of itself. And that's what we watched.
Yeah.
And when it escaped, Bernard had left a door open for Dolores to now actually save existence.
I don't disagree. All of those things needed to be said. It just felt like a lot. It just felt like she was the main character with a side character story. Like, I get it. There was really great stuff, and it was a lot of, who am I? Oh yeah, I'm still Dolores. And so that's I get it.
But I didn't think the point was who she was. The point was what she could do.
No, I didn't. Oh, that's strange. I didn't take it to be that at all.
Because to me it was like, oh, well, we know she's Dolores. It doesn't matter that she realizes she's Dolores. What matters is realizing her power and being able to use it, and that's what Bernard gave her. At least that's where I was coming from.
Yeah. Well, it's got us talking.
Yeah.
And that she's Dolores.
And she's Dolores.
Not Doris.
Not Doris. That's right. Not Finding Doris.
She's
Though,
delightful.
Dolores, as a word, very close to Delos.
Go on.
The companies that own the Westworld.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm there with you.
So maybe this is cyclical. Maybe
You can't spell Dolores without Delos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Re-Delos. Ooh.
Do we want a season 5?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm back in.
Yeah.
Although I'm going to do the same thing that I did this time. This is the right way
That's the
to
way
experience
to do
it.
it.
Is
I
just
gotcha.
overhear the chatter and then dive in.
I hate this ending if there's not a season 5. I think I hate this ending.
I'm fine with
if there's
this
not a season
ending, but I would prefer a season 5.
5. Yeah, I would hate this ending if this was it. I think I would hate this.
Gosh, no. Yeah, I'd be fine with this ending.
Like next season, I really want them to play both sides of this. I want them to get into like, what does Westworld look like if Westworld was a real place in the virtual world? And also, what do you do with the planet that's empty? Because I do believe that Earth is. I believe that that William, or the robot William's message ultimately killed everybody. Humans, host. They all went wild.
It didn't kill the outliers, though. They weren't.
We don't know
affected
that.
by it.
We don't know that.
Well,
and they are not that far out of.
Well,
I'm saying the message didn't cause them to go crazy.
But Dolores is definitive.
As I understood it, the outliers are the remnants of humanity.
With the rebels.
Yeah, they're actual humans, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say
And they're uninfected by the flies, so the message didn't.
Let's say we get them on a spaceship.
Well, and Hale, an episode or two ago, even goes like, "Yeah, I mean, the rebels. You live in the outskirts. Whatever. I'll take care of you. We'll take care of you. You'll get gone too."
But there's no one left to take care of them.
The
humans who are affected kill each other, and there's no other hosts to go get them.
I don't know. They don't show enough of the world outside of these 3 cities to say about that. But I am of the mind.
I feel
that
like
they're gone.
we saw Caleb say goodbye to his daughter, obviously because that was a touching scene, but also to show that there are humans getting away and surviving.
But for how long?
Well, that's
till
for
they
season
get
5
to space. Spaceships.
All right.
It could be space.
Anything besides spaceships to say?
Dude, that's all you're going to get from me from now on. If this series goes to space, I'm a happy man.
Ladies and gentlemen, HBO Max just announcing its new season of Spaceworld coming next year. That is Westworld Season 4, Episode 8, and all of Season 4. And that's it for this episode of Spoilerin Time. Thanks, everybody, for supporting us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Cordkillers is where you go to get these episodes early, get After Talk, where we add to our insights and even talk about some things that we don't talk about anywhere else. Next time on Spoilerin Time, we will wrap up Better Call Saul, Season 6, Episode 13. We'll talk about What We Do in the Shadows, Season 4, Episode 7, and we'll begin watching She-Hulk with Episode 1 of Season 1. Spoil you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.